everybody. Welcome to a new edition of Every Rockie Ever, a Colorado Rockies podcast, part of the Fans First Sports Network under the Rocky Mountain Rooftop banner. I'm your host, Skyler Timmons, joined here once again by my older brother. It's Dustin.
Hello, hello.
Hi, dilly ho, neighborino. Buenos ding dong dilly dias. But we're back here. We took a week off. Life gets busy. School in full swing, all kinds of other things going on for Dustin. And so we're back here, ready for another episode as March is underway, spring training underway here in 2024, recording this. So we're right in the throes of watching the Rockies, seeing them get beat up by the Dodgers, all that good stuff.
Or not. That's not good stuff.
But luckily, we have the Affected by Altitude podcast to commiserate all that misery in the regular show with myself and Evan Lang. But Dustin just gets to go down memory lane here on this podcast. So we celebrate Rockies history and players from the past. And trying to figure out what ones we wanted to do today, we figured let's go with a couple of center fielders. Outfielders have been on the mind here for the Rockies as of late here in the modern era. There's always been a ton of outfielders. There's a lot more on the way. Figure, well, let's look back on a couple of guys that played center field for the Rockies. Not an easy position, Dustin, for the Rockies to fill over their 30-year history.
No, because Coors Field has one of the largest fields in Major League Baseball. So to have somebody patrolling that ginormous outfield there at Coors Field, it takes a toll. And the Rockies just, the two guys we'll talk about today, one of them had a really good season offensively, and the other one was part of that youth movement and solidified center field for a few years until we, had sent him off, and he ended up, having a continued success, which was really cool for him as that player. But center field, it's a tough thing. And this last year, the Rockies think that, we got a Gold Glove center fielder, and it reminded me of these two guys, having somebody with good speed and swing the bat a little bit, both of these guys. And so, that's where we're going at today with their center fielders.
Yeah, and so one of these, you on Twitter reached out to us or responded to a call, and somebody mentioned Preston Wilson, and I may have to look them up to see who the shout out was, who brought it up. But this is one that I know the name, but I'm not really familiar with him. But it was Will at Will_E_777 responded Preston Wilson. I always see Will commenting on other stuff, interacting with him there on Twitter. He'll have some good jokes in there every once in a while, here and there in the interactions. But yeah, Preston Wilson, and another one that we decided to throw in with this, kind of fits that same mold, Dexter Fowler, who kind of more in my era of my center fielder, growing up, paying more attention to the Rockies. But we're going to kick things off here with Preston Wilson first, and I'll hand it off to Dustin here for his quick little career breakdown.
Well, Preston Wilson, and center fielder, batted right, threw right, from South Carolina. He was drafted by the Mets back in the 1992 draft and made his major league debut in 1998 and Florida. And, well, I guess they're with the Mets and then Florida. But came over to the Rockies in trade. Does that 2002, and they traded Mike Hampton and Juan Pierre. Wilson, Vic Derensburg, Charles Johnson, and Pablo Zuna. And I remember that trade and thinking, "Dang, Charles Johnson," because he was legit with the Marlins, and Preston Wilson was a young, athletic center fielder. And something that the Rockies needed. But in my mind, he always played longer than what he actually did with the Rockies. He was with them in 2003, had an all-star season. Then 2004, and the Rockies then traded him away pretty much, that next year to the Nationals. And he went on to play Nationals, went to Houston, was a World Series champion, and finished his career in 2007 with the St. Louis Cardinals. So officially 10 years in the big leagues. Those injuries kind of nagged him, but that 2003 season, for me, like 5 seasons. That one season. So for me, I was always doing our research. I was just shocked. Like, wait, he played pretty much a year and a half with the Rockies? What the heck?
Yeah. 284 total games in a Rockies uniform, which you think of that, like, man, that's not that, especially after that big first year, it looks like, that we'll get into here. But this is one that I don't have much recollection about. Preston Wilson, before my time of really paying attention, because I was in early elementary school when he was playing with the Rockies, so I wasn't too familiar with him. No, I recognize the name. Could have been from another. Again, a lot of these guys, we always find names. Oh, it was probably from a video game or something. But yeah, he's one of those names that I'm not super familiar with, of what he did in a Rockies uniform or how he did.
Well, that was, I paid attention just because the Marlins had just won the World Series in '97, right? And then they just they were developing guys. There's these guys that they're bringing up. They have Charles Johnson, that was a super good defensive catcher. Preston Wilson, with his time, those few seasons before that he comes to the Rockies, with the Marlins, he hit 104 home runs. He could steal bases. He batted .262. So the guy, in my mind, man, this guy's legit. Getting another bat reminded me of Ellis Burks. The Blake Street Bombers that kind of goes. People didn't like. I don't know. People realize how good Ellis Burks was with the Rockies in center field. And so when Preston Wilson came over, I got super excited, thinking, "Dang, we've got another Ellis Burks. He's going to be blasting balls out of Coors Field." And a guy that he's got good legs on him, that he can patrol the outfield. And that first season, he proved me right. An all-star team, led the National League, and it's 141 RBI.
That number's not happening anytime again.
Sheesh. That's like, it was insane. 36 home runs. What's funny is only one triple. So, he's just going yard, 43 doubles, and in 155 games. Batted .282 that year. So that got him his one and only game, which I'm surprised, because he had to have been an all-star with Florida. But I was wrong.
Yeah, a second-place Rookie of the Year in 1999 with the Marlins. And then, looking at those stats, it reminds me of George Springer in a way. Because George Springer comes up and playing center field. He's got the big bat, can steal some bases. Good center fielder for the Astros, but was blasting the ball out of the ballpark, driving in runs. Like, looking at those numbers, that's what a modern day comp I can look at is George Springer, who he's dealt with injuries now later in his career with the Blue Jays. But yeah, it's cool to see that the Rockies made that in that trade for Mike Hampton. With Mike Hampton debacle, they actually got something still good back in return. Fortunately, it just didn't pan out long term for them, with him in a Rockies uniform.
Yeah, and that's what was disappointing in that the 2004 season. He only played 50-some games, and then the next season he was traded in July save some money. But then the Rockies kind of scuffled a little bit trying to figure out their center field position for a few more years until they get Willie Taveras and then later on with Dexter Fowler.
Mm-hmm.
But that one season, if he could have stayed healthy and then done that again, it would have been amazing, a steal.
Mm-hmm.
And in that trade that they got when they got rid of Mike Hampton and all that, that was another. It's like, they were just trying to get rid of some stuff. They got Vic Derensburg. I remember his name thrown around. Pablo Zuna and Charles Johnson had a couple of good years with the Rockies. And like I said, those were the two guys in that trade that I was like, yes, these guys, they're tough.
Mm-hmm.
And it just they were here and then gone.
Yeah, so looking 2003, named a National League All-Star in his first season in Colorado, led the National League in a career best 141 RBIs, tying Willie Mays for the 8th highest total by a center fielder in Major League history. He took sole possession of the RBI lead on July 9th and held on for the remaining 82 days of the season and tied Dante Bichette in 1996 for the 5th highest RBI total in Rockies history. 5th highest. That tells you about those early days of the Rockies. Just 9 shy of Andres Galarraga's club record, also set in 96. He led all of baseball in RBIs until the last week before Carlos Delgado had 10 in that final week. Drove in more runs before the All-Star break than any player in National League history at that time, with 91 in 95 games. Or his 91 RBIs in 95 games, tied Harmon Killebrew for the 5th most before the break in Major League history. Yeesh. Could you imagine having that today? He became just the 10th player ever with 90-plus RBIs at the break, en route to earning his first appearance in the Midsummer Classic. For the year, he set career highs in hits, 169, doubles, 43, extra base hits, 80, total bases, 322, and home runs, 36, ranking 3rd in National League and extra base hits, 6th in total bases, and tied for 10th in doubles. Those home runs led the Rockies, and also tied for 10th in the league. He averaged 1 RBI every 4.25 at-bats, just barely behind Barry Bonds at 4.33 for the highest ratio in the league. And I'm reading this from the bio info on MLB.com on his stat page. And it keeps going, Dustin. There's more. He had a team best 11 go-ahead home runs, and the Rockies were 24-8 when he went deep. He was hitting 300 as late as August 13th, before going 26 for his last 130 or 23. Had finished with a 282 batting average. He failed to steal over 20 bases for the first time since 1999, but still led with 14 stolen bases. That was crazy looking at that. He kept hitting them out of the ballpark. Didn't need to steal when you're clubbing dingers and extra bases. Set a club record and led all major leaguers with 207 at-bats with runners in scoring position. Or get this, Dustin. He hit 314, 65 for 207 with runners in scoring position. It was the most at-bats with runners in scoring position in the majors since 1996, when Derek Bell had 219 and Paul Molitor 209. So then he gets named, hit 307 with 32 doubles, 23 homers, and 91 RBIs during the first half. Gets named to the All-Star game, where he goes on as a reserve. He went 1 for 2 in the contest with a single off of Mark Mulder. Yeesh.
Well, that's crazy because, sheesh, the Rockies in 2003, of course you had primetime Todd Helton, Jay Payton in left, Larry Walker in right, Chris Steins third base, Ronnie Belliard at second base, Greg Norton is the pinch hitting specialist, Charles Johnson catching, Juan Uribe at short. Those were your dudes. I'm like, how were there so many people on base?
Yeah, I
Because
know.
out of Jay Payton had a very good year that year, and Larry Walker did his thing. Ronnie Belliard hit 277 that year.
Mm,
You know, and it's just mind-boggling that how many dudes were on base that they made it work.
yeah.
Sheesh.
Looking at more of these on April 29th, 2003. Hey, my birthday. Not the year, but the date. Was the lead act in Colorado's 100th back-to-back home run with, who can you guess? Played the outfield with him?
Larry Walker.
One Larry Walker. Over a 16 full game stretch from April 30th to May 17th, he was the only Rocky to hit a home run. The rest of the roster went 495 consecutive at bats without hitting one out of the park. He had 6 during that stretch.
Sheesh.
He tying the record with Andres Galarraga in 1995. The last big leaguer to hit 6 consecutive home runs for his team was Barry Bonds in 2001. And it just keeps going on. So many more tying records with 3 doubles in a game on May 4th against Chicago. On July 10th versus San Francisco, went 3 for 4 with 2 homers and a career high 6 RBIs. The 6 gave him 89 for the season, a Rockies record before the All-Star break. He led the majors with 34 during the month of July. He was the co-player of the week with Livan Hernandez. He reached the 100 RBI faster than any player in Rockies history, doing so in game number 107 of the season.
Dang.
He belted his 4th career grand slam August 28th. His home run was number 32 on the year, setting a single-season career high, and his 5 RBIs that afternoon gave him 126 for the season, also a new career high. That was a monster 2003 season, and he didn't even... Where did he place in MVP voting? Is it more the
16th?
Yeesh. And who was the MVP that year? Was it Barry Bonds again?
Oh.
2003?
Yep, Barry Bonds. Barry Bonds, Pujols, Sheffield, Tomey. Oh,
Wow. And
dang, those are some crazy names in that season.
Yeah.
Well, we forget that the one Todd Helton hit 358. You know, like,
yeah.
those kind of things. Holy cow.
Yeah. Yeesh. Man, that's crazy. Looking at that. One of those monster seasons.
Just an absolute monster of a season that was just that flash in the pan.
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know. I'm not Preston Wilson, but maybe that he was running around the bases quite a bit and running around in the outfield, and he still played 155 games.
Mm-hmm.
And that's some wear and tear. And if he would have been healthy, kept, been good. Oh man, can you imagine if he would have stayed that same path? Holy cow. But for me, so that season, like I said, was so memorable to me. He was just a monster. And that's why I think I always in my mind think Preston Wilson, he was there for years. No, he wasn't.
It was really just like 1.5, like you said.
Yeah.
18 months at best, type of thing. But it's cool looking up here on this bio stuff too. A lot of his charity work, and while he was with Colorado, hosted 30 inner city kids at Coors Field on Saturday games through his Preston's Pals program, which he began in South Florida when he was with the Marlins. And in 2003, won the Rockies Good Guy Award as voted by the local BBWAA. So, it seemed like just a good dude behind the scenes too. And it's Terry Shumper that's really doing. It's like, I was trying to figure out the connections to like Mookie Betts.
Well, Preston Wilson is Mookie Wilson.
Yeah.
is related to Mookie Wilson, who was the player for the Mets.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah. You got stuck in the Mookie
Yeah.
part.
Yeah. Just solid dude. And he said, imagine if he had been able to stay that path. Well, maybe not with the Rockies, but throughout the rest of his career. His career ended when he was 32. And so, like, maybe eventually stuff caught up to him. Just the body couldn't keep up anymore. But it's crazy that it ends when he's 32, when it seems like there could have been several more years in there for him somewhere. But
yeah, and that's sadly that when injuries take a career away like that. But I think he's been still involved with baseball. And I remember him being on MLB Network and doing some stuff and talking about his experience at Coors Field. And I think what I like most is what you mentioned about his charity work and working with the inner city kids and growing baseball. And I think, as we always say, that's way bigger than baseball too, to give back to the community and give kids and families hope at something. And that's what, that's, I think all the time when we talk about these guys and their work, that's way more important than those stats that they threw up in the 141 RBI and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And it looks like, like you said, still involved with baseball. Not sure exactly, but at least starting in 2018, he was working as a field reporter for the Astros, but that's several years ago. So not sure if he's still in capacity with somewhere working TV. Not because he was with the Marlins for a long time doing that stuff. So, but that's just cool. Like, forgotten, like, wonder seasons, just incredible seasons, flash in the pan type of guys for the Rockies. And fortunately, could have repeated it, but knee injuries. And then having to trade him. Oh, well, but man, looking up those stats, that's some crazy stuff.
Pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
Yeah, incredible. But moving along here to our next center fielder, I don't think he was putting up those kinds of records in a single season. But still, like, I think a huge fan favorite among Rockies fans. No, I think for a lot of people, he's who they think of when they think of center fielder for the Rockies for a long time. I think Brenton Doyle's going to try to change that idea now. But it's one Dexter Fowler, who is part of. I know when I think of center fielder, I think of Dexter Fowler. And we'll throw it over to Dustin for old Spider Legs' career.
All right, Dexter Fowler, center field, switch hitter through right from Atlanta, Georgia. He was drafted by the Rockies out of high school in the 2004 draft in the 14th round. It ended up making his major league debut in 2008. So he's one of our homegrown boys that got up there, and he was number 14, number 63, and what we all remember him as, number 24, with the Rockies. And he hit the major leagues from 2008 to 2013 season with the Rockies. And after that, sad to see him go. But it was, baseball's a business. And he was traded by the Rockies in 2013 to the Houston Astros for Brandon Barnes, who we've had on the show, and starting right-handed pitcher Jordan Lyles.
Who's still around.
Yes, sir. And then from there, he was with the Astros, gets traded to the Cubs. And he's out with the Cubs for a while, for a couple of years.
Did nothing of significance there.
Yeah, nothing. And, only won a World Series, whatever. Signed with the Cardinals, traded to the Angels, and in 2022, signed with the Blue Jays, but by May he was That was it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was
2022.
at the end of his career. It was like he played a couple games with the Angels, and then I think he tore his ACL or something on his leg, and it just ended his career pretty much. Kind of a sad way to end it.
Yeah, but Dexter Fowler, you know, the homegrown center fielder that, that infectious smile. Everybody, I
Mm-hmm.
remember all the time of them talking about Dexter Fowler and that smile of his that he just lit the place up.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting leadoff hitter, and he was a kid that came up and saw him playing hard. He was fearless in center field. Like he said, he would just glide in the outfield,
Yeah.
and he had some that surprise pop in his bat.
Mm-hmm.
We'd always throw out the upper Dexter,
Mm-hmm.
because he when he would grab a hold of one, and it was just those moon shots that you
Yeah.
saw it go, and you just sit there and watch it and be like, oh man, that's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's breaking down his career here. In a Rockies uniform. If we pull it up here real quick. So with the Rockies, 2008 to 2013, played 667 games, batted 270, 365 on base, 423 slugging, 40 home runs, 53 doubles. No, it's 53 triples, 120 doubles, 210 RBIs, 83 stolen bases. Yeah, interesting enough. Wow, he's actually pretty good at drawing walks. 588 strikeouts to 325 walks. So not too shabby. And 376 runs scored. Yeah, Dexter. Good old Dexter out of Atlanta, Georgia. So I guess, what do you thing that I remember most? I think the big thing was the drummer on the Rockies turning him into a switch hitter. Where I guess in the minors they're like, "Hey, we want you to be a switch hitter," and so a lot of it was him. A lot of stories like, can he figure out how to do it? Can he figure out how to hit left-handed? Should he just abandon that and go back to hitting naturally righty? I think that was a big conversation for Dexter throughout his early years of his career until it finally like clicked in at some point where he was a lot more comfortable doing it.
Well, yeah, and I always thought, like, man, can you imagine you make it to the major leagues, or like this is one thing, and then having to trust the organization, like they see this in you, this potential, but then buying into that, like I think all baseball players try that. They believe that they can be a switch hitter, but I know for a fact I get up facing 90 plus. I'm never going to touch a baseball left-handed. I couldn't do it right-handed, but going up left-hand, you were a lot better here. You actually hit home runs from both sides of the plate. So you had that potential that maybe you can relate a little more to Dexter, but I cannot imagine, being in Oklahoma with the Drillers and working at switch hitting and the places, the paths that he took in the minor leagues, but it worked. And the Rockies got a 270 hitter.
Yeah.
And that's from, I don't know what his stats were on each side, right-handed and left-handed, but it was always Dexter being able to grind. And like you said, getting into that leadoff position, a guy that could draw a walk and every now and then put one in the stands, get on base, steal a few bases here and there. And he kind of cleared a path then after, we had the Willie Tavares, the Rocktober, and we bring in Dexter Fowler to take center field. And then after that, it was the only one I think after that was once Dexter left and Charlie Blackmon as our leadoff guy, reigns, and Dexter hitting triples. And those kind of things is what I always think of when we're talking about Fowler in the outfield and on base.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like looking at his career stats as a left-handed batter with the Rockies, his lowest season batting left-handed was 2013 when he had a 237 average in a full regular season. And then when he batted right-handed, pulling it up here, now it's being slow. Let's see, from 2009 to 2013, those regular seasons, as a right-handed batter, the lowest season was a 254 average in 2011. Hit 321 in 2009, 315 in 2012, 323 in 2013, 260 in 2010. So he eventually evened things out. You look at his career numbers, they evened out over the course of his career where, yeah, he became pretty reliable on either side of the plate. But yeah, learning how to switch hit, because like you would always make me say, flip over to the left side now. And it's hard when you grow up doing it one way, probably like Dexter did your whole life, batting one way, your natural side, and then try to take that and mirror it the other way and get your brain, and it still doesn't feel comfortable. We can still do it, but there's just still something off where you can't quite, this just feels uncomfortable when you're trying to do it the opposite way, and it's not always going to be the same. And so trying to figure out how to replicate the swing both ways from either side, it's a tough deal. And the fact that Dexter was able to learn it as a professional, at the professional level, and then find success and have a pretty decent career doing that, I think it speaks a lot to his baseball just knowledge, acumen, and talent that he was able to adopt that and be successful with it.
Yeah, because even in the minors, he batted in before going to play for Team USA in the 2008 Olympics. He batted 337, 9 home runs, 61 RBI, 20 stolen bases for Double A Tulsa. Back in the day. I was like going back, seeing what remembering the previous minor league affiliates that we had. But he gets called up to the majors, and not the major league debut that he wants. He goes in, pinch runner in the bottom of the 10th inning, and gets picked off.
Uh-huh.
So it's like, oh, that's not good, and finally got his first major league hit was an infield single.
Uh-huh.
In September 10th, 2008. But he'd wait till the next spring and get his first career home run in April 8th of 2009. So it was he hit a home run on the first pitch of the game. First Rockies to ever do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I think the thing when he starts being that kind of speedy leadoff type of he's going to get on base, make some contact, get on base, steal bases, that type of thing. Because I don't remember if somebody referred to him as he runs like a gazelle. Just those long strides out there. I think like his nickname's Daddy Long Legs. So just this big tall guy, long strides. So not necessarily like super fast, but just really long legs, a tall, lanky dude that can cover some ground with every stride. Like in 2009, sets a modern-day rookie record when he stole 5 bases against the Padres. I think that was a Rockies record, too, of stolen bases in a game. He did like 5 or 6 one game, didn't he? I can't remember. I just know that there was one game where he stole a bunch of bases.
Yeah, I was.
If it was just that one time,
him and Eric Young, that had their base stealing streaks in games.
Mm-hmm. But for me with Dexter is kind of that he's that younger guy, like you said, part of that youth movement, a part of that new generation of Rockies around 2009. Matt Holliday's gone. Cargo is hanging out in the minors still. He hadn't been called up quite yet early there in 2009. So Dexter's out there. Spilly's there, kind of the veteran leader out there. Then you got Tulo at short, and Helton at first, and then I guess Ionetta at catching. And then outside of that, it's like, okay, who's going to be this new crop? I guess you got Brad Hopp out there, but who else? And so I think Dexter is that next wave of guys that we remember through those 2010s. A little bit, that first era of the 2010s, where he's out there in center field, making the plays, doing things, hitting switch at the plate, getting on base, hitting triples. I think he hit a ton of triples with the Rockies. Led the league a couple of times, led the franchise for a while until one Charlie Blackmon finally overtook him. But Charlie's had the advantage of 14 years with the team.
Yeah, really, Skyler, what do we always think of Dexter Fowler? Not the offensive stats right now. What is the single most important catch in Colorado Rockies history?
I believe it is in 2010 when Ubaldo Jimenez is pitching against the Atlanta Braves on the road late in the game, and somebody hits one deep into center field into the gap, and Dexter chases it down and makes a diving catch to save it.
Oh, man. I remember that play, watching that game, and holding my... nags it. Oh, man. It seems like any perfect game, any no-hitter has to have one of those plays.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. That was the one.
Yeah. I need to see if I can pull it up here on my computer, but my keyboard is over there. So Dustin, keep talking about other memories of watching that no-hitter and just how things are going real quick.
Oh, that was with Dexter. I don't remember having the best of arms, but I knew with those legs, those strides, he could cover ground and catch a baseball. Jumping up at the fence. He's 6'5", playing hoops, and he could track the ball and make that play. So I remember that game, Baldo, and I think we're all kind of in disbelief that a Rockies pitcher is going to throw no hitter. Mm-hmm. What? And of course, it had to be. It was that 2010 season with Ubaldo, who was just amazing. And I probably threw some things, like just in excitement, and being like, "There, yeah, this is the play." Every no hitter, every perfect game has some sort of web gem play that sealed the deal, and that was one Dexter had. And then I remember the post game and the analysis of it, and when they do the track, like what was the path that he took, where did he, was it, and it's the most efficient, and this, that, and the other. And that's when I think of Dexter Fowler. That's always, we have a Rockies no-hitter.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I watched that full game, but I remember the highlight is still one that's just all over the place. All right, so this is from Rockies, I guess, YouTube, and this is Ubaldo talking about the play of Dexter Fowler making the catch.
We got 9 outs to go. This ball's hit a ton.
As soon as he hit the ball, I was like, oh, that's tall. I looked back and then I saw Dexter running as hard as he could.
Fowler lays out, he makes the catch.
It was amazing. And especially in that time, was throwing no-hitter.
Here's the 1-2. Ground ball to second. Barmes to first. Ubaldo Jimenez has no hit the Atlanta Braves.
There we go. Yeah, so just that play of Dexter, that ball was scorched into the gap.
Who hit that one?
I don't know. Troy Glaus?
Oh, man. He was a monster for the Angels.
But look at this. Look at this gap that he has to cover over here. Let's see. Dexter's here. Was probably like playing over here. And if you're watching this on YouTube, we encourage you to look this up on YouTube if you're listening to it. But look at this huge gap. Like, that's headed into no man's land. That's a guaranteed double, probably. At least. And then Dexter comes out of nowhere. Because Ubaldo just... Oh,
He's like,
no.
Oh, no.
And here it comes. Tracked it down all the way. On his legs makes the catch. Like... There was no way that he wasn't getting that. He had that the entire way to make that catch, and I think that's one of the great moments in Rockies history. Like, there's been other plays in the midst of no-hit bids, but I think that's probably one of the most influential ones and like most important catches because it actually ensured that the the no-hitter happens.
Yeah. Oh, man. Just looking at him, he was just gliding through the outfield to get to the gap and snag it, and just made it look easy.
Mm-hmm.
He had that swagger to him, and once again, do you see his face? He pops up, and what do you see? That big smile.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that all the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of the great moments in Rockies history, and it's all thanks to Dexter for helping make it happen. Part of it. Yeah, Ubaldo wasn't at his best in that game, but the defense stuck with it, and that play right there, the most influential one for a no-hitter coming along. So I think that's what mostly people point to. On Twitter, they're like, yeah, single-handedly got us no-hitter. Like, saved the no-hitter, reason we got one. No, it's saved the... I think somebody said, like, saved the no-hitter like 9 times that day because of his defense. Just gliding across the outfield, covering that ground. But the other one that a lot of people think of, too, I think, was not necessarily play on the field, but his acting skills in the Rockies commercials, where his most notable one is telling Todd Helton about Twitter, what Twitter is. That's a good one. Who or what is a Twitter? Hey, it's a way to let everybody know what you're doing. Like, right now, I'm chilling with Todd. And to which Todd Helton's response, who cares what you're doing? You're basically still a rookie. And goes back to typing away. Yeah, those Rockies commercials are always a good, memorable ones. That's what I remember with Dexter's. I'm about to send out a Twitter.
Or the real estate one with all the...
Oh, yeah. He's putting the signs out. It's like, I got this covered.
Yeah.
Tulo's like, what the heck are you doing? But... yeah,
and that was fun, and just that athleticism. Do you remember the one time he jumped at the fence, lost his glove, and then he jumps back over? Where did Dexter go? Then he hops back over, and then in the 2009 NLDS when he leapfrogged Chase Utley, like. I was like, as we were going through stuff, that was one of those that just the picture of it, and he's completely jumped over the top of Chase Utley, and dang, those are some hops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's he an athletic individual, and like we said, probably not like the fastest, and like still Coors Field is still a difficult one to cover. And I didn't dive into his advanced analytics. I'm sure they probably say that he wasn't good. But on the eyeball test, which I think for both of us means a lot, he passed the eye test, where he could handle center field no problem, knew what he was doing out there, and, made it look easy, just gliding across like he's skating out there and chasing balls down. And so that no-hitter, he didn't even really need to dive. He didn't lay out for it. He caught it backhanded in the air, and then he slid into it to ensure he didn't stumble and lose it. But, man, good old Dexter.
Yeah, and he was a good guy. Had an all-star season with the Cubs in 2016 when they win the World Series. He was, he had success after his Rockies career, but it was always cool as a Rockies fan. That was one of our homegrown guys, and to see him mature and make an impact at those other organizations, the Cubs, the Cardinals, with the Angels. He was always one that, good for him. And once again, sadly, injuries took him out a little early, but he's still a solid 14 years in the big leagues.
Yeah. And like everywhere we went, people love Dexter, like just a good dude. And I know he's still active out on social media. So Dexter, if by some chance you see this, know how much we appreciate you and how much you did for the Rockies and everything. Because it's one of those fun homegrown guys, I think. And they hadn't had a lot of those center fielders like that. But he was one of those homegrown guys that stuck around for a hot spell, and they felt, we got to make some trades. Dexter's our most valuable piece right now. We need to clear some room, change some things up. Fortunately, he was part of that, and I'm sure he probably would have loved to stay with the Rockies for a couple more years after that. But like we said, it worked out for him in his career. Won a World Series, played on some competitive teams, and became a more notable name around the league, which is awesome for him. And in 2016, he was the first African-American to appear and bat for the Cubs in a World Series. Pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
Good for him.
And he had some really good... He had a really good playoff set for the Cubs that year.
Yeah.
To get that World Series.
Had didn't he hit the leadoff home run in Game 7 of that series?
Yep.
Yeah, so he was a notable. Good leadoff hitter. Good dude, and Bartos, before he signed that minor league deal with the Blue Jays and then retired, Bartos was like, Rockies should bring him back. Try to bring him back. I think he would have been a good just minor league deal, see if he can come back, be an extra outfielder for us that year or something, but unfortunately was not so. Was not to be, I guess.
No.
Oh well. Had to make sure Matt Adams got his playing time. Or whoever else there in 2022.
Yeah. Let's end on a good note.
Yeah.
But what we're saying is these two center fielders, that made an impact in the short time and in the longer haul. But a couple of really good baseball players, good humans, and I'm glad they're part of Rockies history and part of our Every Rockie Ever.
Yeah, and it's nice when there's players that we can celebrate like this, because when we go through, sometimes there's not much to talk about. With these two, we found plenty to talk about, just their incredible play on the field, and then just good dudes behind the scenes as well. So we definitely appreciate them spending time in purple. And however long or short it may have been, we always appreciate those monster seasons and awesome stats and moments. Because that's what we remember as fans. At the end of the day, with specific players. What was the record of the teams that Dexter Fowler was on? I know they weren't very good most of the time. But I remember what Dexter was doing, and he's my dude. Same with Preston Wilson. Can anybody say what the 2003 record was? But we know what Preston Wilson did.
Yeah, we talked about that roster, and I remember those guys. I didn't remember them being on base that much for Wilson to get them in, but they did. So,
But that's going to do it here for this edition of Every Rockie Ever. As always, we appreciate you tuning in along with us. You can always follow us over on Twitter at Every Rockie Ever. That's ROCKIE. And you can also follow at Rocky Mountain Rooftop, ROCKYMTN Rooftop, over on Twitter and Instagram as well. Trying to do more stuff over there when we remember to or can. And you can also follow us over my writing over at purplerow.com and fansfirstsports.com. More Rockies content. And me on Twitter at silent_crowd and Dustin at Mr. T Spanish. I think we got them all. There's way too many social media plugs to make. I don't think we ever see much growth after that, but hey, it's out there for people.
We're still doing something that we love and talking about a team that we sometimes hate to love, but when we break it down and we get to talk about these players, and again, like we say, that no matter what the record of the team is or how good or bad or whatever, but it's these connections that these players have with us and with all of you that listen and participate along with it. And like always, let us know who do you want to hear about, and what kind of categories we can all put them in to bunch them up. What guys would go good together for an episode. But we appreciate you, and we bleed purple and love this team no matter what.
Yeah. Despite their best efforts, we still love them.
Yeah.
But until next time, this has been Every Rockie Ever. I'm Skyler, and that's Dustin. We'll see ya. Farewell.